Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for To Your Eternity, chapter 161.2. When we last left our heroes, all the middle schoolers were starting to talk about their lives post-graduation, especially the third years, who are looking at where they're going to high school as like a very, very soon occurrence, very little time to wait there. We have this little moment of like, we see Fushi's sort of over-reliance on Bon, when he's just like, oh, Bon will handle that for me when it's my time to graduate. And Hanna's like, no, you have to make your own decisions, which ties into all of the things about will Fushi become God. Speaking of, while Fushi is pondering that in the park where he had his little confrontation with Satoru a while back, he finds the discarded paper airplanes that have died. And he confronts Satoru with that information and with like the theological question of evil. If he's so powerful, why do we suffer? And Satoru tells him that, like, it's those flaws that make people perfect. This is his exact line. Which, you know, that is an answer to the theological problem of evil. It's not one that satisfies a lot of people, but it is an answer. Though Satoru does tell Fushi that if Fushi accepts the power of God, then he will be able to create things that don't die. But that's not how Satoru views the world. So who knows what exactly Fushi will decide. So that being said, let's dive right on in chapter 161.2, Independence Part 2. Which again, feels in conversation with 160 being titled Codependence. But we open at fucking Hirotoshi's house. I still hate this man. I hate that the kids spend time with him. But I think this might be like the same day as earlier because Yuki had grabbed Tamaki and Senba to head to Hirotoshi's place to work on the Occult newsletter, but also Michi is there. And Fushi like walks into their conversation already in progress as Yuki says, oh, I get it. Yeah, we might be able to use that to appeal to people. Can you try it, Michi-chan? And Michi does this like one finger push-up. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Neither is Fushi, who questions, what are you doing? We're brainstorming ways knockers could be useful to mankind. We were just thinking that they could use their super strength to help people with disabilities and stuff. Okay. That is a route. You know, like, it's the sort of thing that if knockers do become sort of, you know, assimilated into society, that could cause a lot of conflict if the knockers don't want to be seen as like handymen. But it's a start. I mean, it's the sort of thing a middle schooler would conceivably come up with. And then I always get Tamaki and Senba confused. Yeah, this is Tamaki who speaks next. If you keep a knocker inside you, it can support your body with this incredible strength. And so they're actually talking about accepting knockerification. Because we see Tamaki, you know, this image of Tamaki in a wheelchair, and then he's able to stand up on his, like, knocker legs. And Senba chimes in, or if you lost an arm or leg in an accident, it can grow you a new one. Which, like, that feels a little parasite-y to me. And Hirotoshi, who is unfortunately allowed to be part of this conversation, and ugly guys like me can be reborn as hunks. Which, like, okay, shut up, Hirotoshi. Your problem is not that you're ugly, your problem is that you're a fucking pedophile, but okay. But Tamaki corrects him, no, they can't do faces, can they? Huh? Why not? But Michi, getting out their, like, noodle fingers that we see in Senba's fantasy, we can a little. Although we can only lengthen the extremities or increase the muscles, so it's not quite the same as making new parts. But we probably could, if Fushi-san gave us the information on the vessels. Okay. And we get that shot of Fushi with that line, which is interesting, because their goal has always been, even like the more evil knockers, their goal was to get the vessels from Fushi. Or that was like one of their big actions. And now Michi's also asking for that. Things to keep in mind. We'll see where Oima's going with all this. But Yuki just goes on, too bad. It looks like they need to evolve more before they can perform advanced cosmetic surgery. Senba questions, information on the vessels? Do you think that means DNA? And Yuki is just, you know, is happy with that concept, I guess. DNA. Ha, that's music to my ears. Doesn't that get you excited, Fushi? And Fushi having only been alive for a year in the modern era, does not really know what that means. Oh, sorry, you don't know what that is, huh? DNA is basically the blueprint for humans. They say that if you use that, you can duplicate a living thing. I've heard they've already performed experiments in other countries. How did that turn out again? I think it might have died right away. Okay. I'm thinking about the introduction of DNA as a plot device in To Your Eternity, and how it kind of acts as a counterpoint to Phi. You know? Like Sadaru brought up that contrast comparing Earth and Paradise, with like Earth as a world of matter and Paradise as a world of Phi. Could the matter that Sadaru mentioned there be synonymous with DNA? I don't know. But Yuki just mutters, I'd like to see a human clone in my lifetime. And Tamaki questions, is it human cloning banned? And Hirotoshi adds in, I think the Church of Bennett opposed it. Such a Church of Bennett thing to do. And Fushi watches, still thinking about his conversations with Sadaru. If I inherit the guy in black's powers, we probably won't need to talk about this stuff anymore. We won't have to think about the knocker's self-awareness. I can give Gugu his old face back, and Hyro real teeth, and I'm sure Echo will be able to talk. So he's seeing... Well, okay, I'm not sure the knockers want Fushi to erase their self-awareness. I don't think that's like the rest of them are at least ostensibly positive attributes. Whereas getting rid of self-awareness, I'm not sure is. Though Fushi, taking the side of being like anti-knocker, as he always is, probably would see it that way. I don't know. But like, you know, especially with Echo, who like, I'm not sure her being unable to talk is really like a disability. It's sort of more of a cultural thing than anything else, as I recall. Unless she like also, you know, other people of her culture would be able to talk. She just can't, and she's lucky she was born in a culture where talking is not the important thing. It's the pot creation. I don't know. But Fushi's just positing all this. I can let them see the people they miss. And we see Masar and the princess from Renril. I can reunite Tonari with her friends from Jananda. Perona and March, and the parents she missed, and everyone else. Can pick up where they left off with their friends and family. Well, but Sadaru himself brought up some problems with that. And that he cannot forcibly he probably cannot forcibly drag souls back from paradise. Right, that's what Sadaru said. And also, would they want that? Like, you know, people have to live on. And that, for so long, has been kind of the theme of this series, is that there is pain, and there is suffering, and you have to live on to find the joy. You know, Fushi has to lose March, and losing March takes him to Gugu, and he finds the joy of knowing Gugu. Then Gugu dies, and that takes him to meet Tonari. It's that pain and that moving on that has defined this series. And, like, I understand Fushi's desire to not have to deal with that anymore. We'll see how Oima takes all this. That's my stance in this whole sort of wrapping up the present era arc, is like, let's see where exactly Oima is going with these themes. So I can see Fushi either realizing the dangers of becoming God and denying those powers, or him taking them, him reviving everyone, and just having to deal with sort of the pain that causes. That, like, maybe things aren't always great when you can just revive people ad nauseum. And then Fushi continues, I can meet them too, and it's the nameless boy and Joanne he thinks of. But I love this image here of Fushi still in the nameless boy's form, being like pushed away from the boy and Joanne as he falls like into this void. I love this sort of like sanded image, like he's surrounded by sand as he like fades away almost. No, if I did, I'm sure I'd become no one, like the guy in black. And we see Fushi with a white hood to counteract Sadaru's black, but still this sort of like, it's a bit of a selfish reasoning for Fushi's denial of the revival, but also it's a very, like, human one. And then we cut to the future. We were told last chapter that it's another, like, half a year until graduation, but now we're graduating now. It's the graduation ceremony for Mizuha and Hanna's year. Congratulations on your graduation. third-year students, and we see Mizuha and Hanna, and then we see, like, newspapers, and it's the Occult guys, Yuki and Tamaki and Senba. In the end, no one so much as glanced at our Occult newsletter. Even though we had pictures, they probably thought it was paranormal fiction. So, like, are those pictures? Oh, yeah, those kind of are pictures of the knockers. Like, I think you see Michi holding a whole-ass car there. And Yuki, like, takes it down dejectedly. I guess the Occult Club will end with us. And Tamaki adds in, most likely. No underclassmen joined. Though there still is, like, the incoming freshman, right? And a bunch of girls approach, I guess it's like first-year girls. So they say, hey, Aoki, where's Fushi-senpai? And Yuki tells them, get lost. I have nothing to say to a bunch of girls who mock the Occult Club. Oh, wait, hold on. Was Fushi a third year? I thought he was the same year as Yuki. And we know Yuki was a second year now. So I guess Fushi was in Mizuha's year. I think we might have seen him in a class with Mizuha at some point, or at least the Guardian Knocker in Mizuha's form. And now all of a sudden I'm realizing like how fast this school year went. Like the first school year went from like 117 when we started in the present era to like 150 when Gugu left, and 151 brought us back to the new year. And now it's like 161, and we've already gone a full year. We skipped most of this year though. With like a seeming peace accord with the knockers, I guess it makes sense we'd go fast. Anyway, the girls all see Fushi. Eek! Fushi-senpai, we'll be so lonely after you graduate. Don't go! I love you! Give me something to remember you by! Sorry, I don't know what to give. Fushi's just not familiar with like middle school graduation rituals, and Yuki snaps the second button off of Fushi's uniform and just throws it to get them away from him. Here, have some buttons. Now scram. And they all chase after it. Yuki watches. Those greedy vultures. And the girls all yell at them. There aren't enough, Aoki. But Senba tells them, oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with it today. Are you sure you don't want to get a little greedy yourself, President? Yuki's the president now. That's sweet. But Yuki just looks at him. What do you mean? Mizuha-senpai, today is your last chance. And Yuki realizes he still has not confessed to this girl. And he does. Full out, right away. I love you. Please go out with me, Mizuha-senpai. And he like cuts off. She's literally there with Hanna, which we never really got the resolution to their kiss back in 146, but okay. And Mizuha just looks at him awkwardly. Sorry? And someone tells him, don't worry about it, pal. And Mizuha is shocked at who this is. Huh? Rikuya-kun? Oh, this is like that random guy who was sort of into Mizuha that one time back when Mizuha was the Guardian Knocker, and then I think he might have been Knocker possessed and then killed or something, and I guess the Knocker's gone, he's back to life. Anyway, Rikuya-kun, hi there. I'm feeling much better now. And Hanna, of course, does not recognize him. Who was he again? And Rikuya comes up to her. Should I take that to mean you'll be going out with me instead? Huh? No thanks. Sorry. I am curious if this is the sign we're going to get some resolution to the Hanna kiss back in 146. I'm not hopeful enough to believe that, like, a, mainstream shonen manga is going to introduce queer or not even, like, protagonists, but, like, main side characters. But we'll see. All the boys, though, are fighting here, including Senba. Not Senba, Tamaki. They go out with me! No, me! What about me? And then we see the Funa gang all watching as Saki, I think this is. That Mizuha still rubs me the wrong way, which is not an excuse for all the bullying they did at the start of the story, but okay. And Yuki just curls up in a ball. It's all over. The girl I liked rejected me, and the Occult Club's gonna be disbanded. Nothing's going right. And Hanna looks at him. Oh, this is bad. His normal well of energy is run completely dry. And we see a sheet of paper lands in front of Yuki, and there's a whole bunch of papers all falling. What are those? And Tasabe was the sensei's name, I think? Something like that. What's this? And the Occult guys look at it. It's the final issue of the Occult News. Everyone has to read it now that it's like in their hands. Who in the world? And we see Fushi spawning them with his powers to like reign over this campus. And Yuki looks up at him with a big ol' smile. What's this thing? Wow, stuff's falling from the sky. It's even like, I think this is like a nearby elementary school. It says it's the Occult News. This is so weird. And we get this very particular close-up on one of the boys there, who can't be older than like 3rd or 4th grade. Wow. And the papers all fall as Yuki like cheers in the middle as the chapter ends. So I'm going to make a theory. I think there's going to be a little bit of a time skip next issue. Not a next chapter. Not enough to like go beyond Satoru's 3-year deadline now that we're already like half a year into that. But I think we're going to see another arc with at least some focus on this boy at the end. That little moment of him reading the Occult News and being wowed by it. I mean, actually, hold on. Maybe he's not 3rd or 4th grade. Maybe he's like the incoming freshman class or something. Or not freshman, but like 1st year middle school class. And he'll be inspired to join the Occult Club by this, thereby keeping the club alive another year. Maybe he brings his friends or something. Maybe people see this and get like intrigued to join the club. I take that back. It won't be a big time skip. Maybe just enough to the start of the next year or something. But yeah, this chapter is very much existing in like an interesting, a bit of a mirror reflection of the last chapter. How that one had its first half be focused on post-graduation drama before moving into the God stuff. And this opens with the God stuff and moves back to graduation, which is a nice like tying both these storylines, tying this whole Independence chapter together in a neat way. But yeah, let's talk about the God stuff first, because that's sort of thing that is very big for like future plot lines and for Fushi's development. Because now he has this ability. He has the power. You know, he can just say, Satoru, make me a god, and like he can fix everyone's lives. And we'll see if they appreciate that. That's sort of the thing that might not be appreciated. Gugu has gone to all this length to sort of, especially in the past, in the present, to sort of learn to accept his face post-mask. Would he want it to be restored to how it was when he was a kid? Also, would Fushi know what it was like when he was a kid, for one thing? And that would also, like, bring some good sort of... we never really discussed the whole... Tonari is unhappy about being 14 again. That was not what she ever fucking wanted. And so Fushi, not really learning his lesson from that because they never really talked about it, making the same mistake with everyone else, that would fit that narrative. That would fit that story. People... like, their identities are wrapped up in some of these things. And things like, especially Echo and her culture's particular means of communication, the ability to talk might diminish that, especially given the fact that culture is seemingly largely not around anymore. Giving Echo the ability to communicate in ways outside of her clay pots is sort of destroying the last vestige of that culture. And I don't think Echo is going to like that. It's not quite as true with Hyro's teeth, or even Gugu's face, though, like, a little bit with Gugu's face. And especially the Knocker's self-awareness. I don't think the Knockers want to be unaware of themselves. That's going to lead to some conflict. And then we get, I love the whole sequence with the image of Joanne and the boy, as he's like, I'm sure I'd become no one like the guy in black. Which, interestingly, is kind of what Satoru's plan for him is, to replace Satoru. To become another beholder, another god. And Fushi here, even if I don't think he's quite put it into those terms yet, is kind of denying that. To say, no, I don't want to become like him. He puts that in a why I can't bring back the nameless boy. But also, becoming god or getting those god powers is becoming like the guy in black. So I don't know if he'll go along with that much either. And then we move on to some fun graduation antics. And honestly, this doesn't really address some of the more thematic things that we see in the first half of the chapter with, like, what will Fushi do after graduation? He needs to start deciding things for himself in the same way he needs to decide the God issue maybe for himself without his friends' direct input, though he does still need to tell them, as sort of is the recurring theme of this whole saga. But like he can't just rely on Bond to make the decisions for him. We don't really broach that here, though we might very soon if time keeps on speeding up. It's largely a lot of gags here. You know, Yuki is just Mizuha quickly rejecting Yuki, and then just the joy of the paper as Fushi uses his powers here to spread all the occult news pamphlets out, and I don't know, maybe we can take that as sort of Fushi accepting the powers of God to help his friends. It's not quite the powers of God yet, it's just the powers of himself. But maybe that is a sign that Fushi is leaning towards accepting Sadaru's offer. We just don't know yet. There's still a lot here that we don't know. But all in all, a really fun chapter. There's a whole lot to really dig into in this chapter, and I can't really wait to see where we go from here, because there's just, you know, it's a good time, and it's one of those, it's like, you know, the sort of end of arc thing where you don't really know what's going to happen next, you can't really wait to find out. That's the sort of vibe this whole chapter gives off. An era is ending, and I don't know how we're all going to go on from, I don't know where the story is going to take us next, so let's leave it at that. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes it happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!